Tap into your neighborhood. That's the slogan for Nextdoor, the local social media app used by 1 in 4 American households. The service acts as a public message board for neighborhoods where users can sell furniture, organize events, and alert neighbors of danger.
We're well over 78,000 people now connected to our Nextdoor community throughout the city of St. Louis.
That's about a quarter of the population of St. Louis. In the past year, monthly active users on Nextdoor grew 20%. It's provided neighbors and public agencies a platform to spread useful and important information during the pandemic.
We see neighbors putting their hands up to help. We see neighbors putting their hands up to be helped. And it is so uplifting to just see kindness and humanity coming to the fore, even in the middle of a crisis.
This poster said, anyone who needed help, maybe getting groceries or running errands. He's a young, healthy guy, and he's more than happy to help out his neighbors. And I thought, oh, wow, that's a really good idea, and I would like to do that too. I just never thought of that.
But the app, along with crime-focused apps like Citizen and Amazon's Neighbors, has been scrutinized for years for not doing enough to curb the racism prevalent on the platform.
Somebody can post the sky is blue, and by the 5th or the 10th post, it's turned into an all-out war on Nextdoor.
It has become a kind of digital superhighway for racial discrimination, for unconscious bias or very conscious bias about who belongs in your neighborhood and who doesn't, and who's suspicious and who's not.
Unlike Citizen and Neighbors, Nextdoor is more than a crime-fighting app. It helps small businesses connect to their local customers and gain new customers with free business postings. Local news outlets, which have been dwindling for years, have used the platform to reach a larger local audience with articles that are relevant to their communities. But its reputation as a public safety tool has drawn criticism.
Some have argued that this is basically neighborhood watch on steroids. You're giving people in the community and neighborhoods the tools to monitor their fellow neighbors, and that can go out of hand very quickly.
As rumors of the company going public become more tangible, we were curious to know more about this incredibly popular app. Nextdoor is a San Francisco-based local social media app used in 11 countries and 270,000 neighborhoods around the world. It allows neighbors to connect and share resources, ask questions, and report crimes, among other things. And it relies on community leads to keep conversations within community guidelines, which sets it apart from other social media apps.
But the business model is still very, very similar. It still relies on local advertisements. It relies on engagement, people seeing those ads. Another way that it makes money is through sponsored ads, local deals, and neighborhood sponsorships.
Nextdoor, which is still a private company, has an estimated $2.2 billion valuation.
So far this March, they have seen an astounding 80% month-over-month spike in daily active users. I bet this is just the beginning.
Louis Reed, president of the Board of Aldermen in St. Louis, has been using the platform for years now.
We disseminate a lot of information, public safety information, crime statistics, issues. If we're going to be doing street repairs within your community, we let people know through that forum. COVID-19, we sent information out throughout the community to help inform people.
When former Square CFO Sarah Fryer took over in 2018, it was seen as a good move for a company eyeing an IPO.
She was widely seen as Jack Dorsey's right-hand woman, and in a lot of cases, Wall Street loved her.
But Fryer has neither confirmed nor denied the IPO rumors.
If you have a recurring revenue stream, if you have shown discipline, and if you have a big growth advantage in front of you, I think Nextdoor is on that path. But I certainly wouldn't goal any company around going public.
It certainly has its work cut out for it. Reportedly wants to go public at between a $4 and $5 billion valuation. It was last valued in private markets at around $2.2 billion. And as they get closer to a potential IPO, there is some stiff competition. There was a report that Facebook is looking at going onto their territory with the advent of something that it calls neighborhoods.
For the moment, Fryer might have her hands full just dealing with all the negativity on an app supposedly designed for connection.
You have neighbors tattling on each other. It can be quite funny, as you've seen from the Best of Nextdoor Twitter feed, but it can have some really important real-world consequences as well.
Best of Nextdoor has made quite a name for itself, gaining over 400,000 Twitter followers compared to Nextdoor's 40,000 followers. And that did not sit well with Nextdoor's former CEO.
Our comms people hate Best of Nextdoor. I will admit, even though I don't like the fact that there are more followers of Best of Nextdoor than there are of @Nextdoor itself, I do find it humorous.
I don't showcase any of the racism that runs rampant on Nextdoor or anything because I don't want to put that negativity back out into the world.
The COVID-19 pandemic highlighted some real public safety benefits in the platform.
Right now, we're seeing folks like the American Red Cross that you're talking about coming to Nextdoor to really get the word out about blood drives. The CDC designated us an EPIC partner, which means we're an emergency preparedness partner.
When you talk about intensely local things, like for example, if we had curfew hours in place, if we had mask requirements in place, if we were asking businesses not to open at certain times, they were able to get that information directly from the city.
Many police departments use the app to report crimes and relay information to the public.
It allows people within the community to organize and to send notices out immediately amongst the community so that they can coordinate efforts with law enforcement, they can coordinate efforts with each other and the city at large. It's been really helpful in helping communities put neighborhood watch programs together.
But because of unconscious bias or very conscious racism, not all of these ad hoc neighborhood watch programs are for the best, and Nextdoor has found itself again in the company of crime-focused apps like Citizen and Neighbors as a result.
In a utopian vision, it could be a tool in which the community could look out for each other. That, you could keep your neighbors alert of things. But really what we see is that not only has it become, like I said, like a digital superhighway for racially profiling people, but it's also just become a kind of crowdsourced tool for police surveillance.
Nextdoor has done more to distance itself from those police surveillance apps like Citizen and Neighbors. After the killing of George Floyd and the subsequent Black Lives Matter protests, Nextdoor removed a controversial feature that allowed neighbors to forward videos and suspicious activity directly to law enforcement. We spoke to 4 community members that have come together to combat racism on the Nextdoor app in their neighborhoods.
We have really reached the conclusion that the crime and safety portion of their platform needs to be dismantled.
Social media apps may also contribute to public paranoia. While violent and property crime have fallen sharply over the past 3 decades, public perception of crime has only dropped slightly and has actually risen since the early 2000s.
If you were laying in bed at night, you would have no idea that somebody walked by your house, paused for a few seconds, and then kept moving. That wouldn't scare you, but now if you get an alert every time that happens, and then you wake up, you see it, you're frightened, why is this person on my stoop? And then you share it to an app like Nextdoor, then all of a sudden, not only you're scared, but your neighbors are scared.
And it's not just what happens on the platform that scares some users. It's what happens offline as a result of online conversations. Fatima says she's seen instances where users have threatened to report their neighbors to their employers for comments made on Nextdoor.
One of our residents, she's an attorney, and she was questioning some legal claim, supposed legal claim. And so the conversation on the thread became, oh, she's an attorney, we can look up her bar number and report her.
This Nextdoor neighborhood in my real neighborhood does not look at all like my neighborhood. And so it's a conversation going on between a very select group of people.
Nextdoor is not the only local app that has been called out for racist comments and profiling. Apps like Citizen and Amazon's Neighbors have faced backlash too. But Nextdoor stands out because it's not exclusively about crime prevention, which makes it better positioned as a social network, but can also exacerbate the problems of the platform.
It creates this interesting dichotomy between who is suspicious and who is not. And it's both decided by racial factors, by class factors, and also by who's on the app and who's not.
Part of the racist profiling too is in the descriptors, in that so much we'll see Latino man in a white shirt, Black male in a hoodie, and that describes, right, my partner, my brother, my cousin, who when coming to visit could fit the description of the person you just said was the suspect of a crime.
Ludke says the platform isn't doing enough to weed out the racist posts.
When I just pointed out the lack of Black Lives Matter signs in our neighborhood, and it became a controversial post, naturally. And at some point, I decided to just close the thread because you have the option of closing the comments. And I updated the post with the notice saying, I'm going to close this thread because I don't want any more arguments to be happening. And that got flagged, and because of that, I got blocked.
Black Lives Matter posts have been a particular sticking point recently for the company. The company posted a Black Lives Matter post on its blog, but users found that, in contrast, their Black Lives Matter posts on Nextdoor were being flagged and taken down.
I was really curious as to how and why Black Lives Matter was being censored from Nextdoor when the company was being so vocal about supporting the movement. So I looked more into the moderator process and how that was organized.
Nextdoor relies on things like community leads, which are essentially volunteers who can take down content, who can monitor content.
A lot of leads became leads simply because they're the first person to join their neighborhood. They're the first Nextdoor member in their neighborhood, and you automatically become a lead. And there's no way for others to apply to become a lead, and only the lead can make other people leads. So obviously that is a recipe for disaster.
It's a problem familiar to all social media companies, but unlike larger platforms like Facebook or Twitter, Nextdoor relies on these community leads to moderate conversations and posts on the platform.
Yes, Facebook has these problems as well, but it is a much, much bigger company with more money and more ways to moderate its content.
When I asked Nextdoor staff, why is it that posts like mine that is standing up to racism is removed and I'm being blocked, but racist posts are there, I'm told we need to report it. He says we have 200,000 neighborhoods in this country and we cannot staff all of that. So the question to Nextdoor is very simple. Then why are you operating in 200,000 neighborhoods if you don't have the capacity to work as a corporation in these neighborhoods?
CEO Sarah Fryer has taken responsibility on behalf of the company for the removal of Black Lives Matter posts, and the company has taken steps to encourage healthy dialogues about race on the platform by making some crucial changes to the community guidelines.
We know we have real work to do. So we've been working on this for many years. We work with many partners. We have some great advisors on our Neighborhood Vitality Advisory Board, but there's still more work to do.
Things that Sarah Fryer has implemented, like a kindness reminder, which, looks at wording in a post and then, has a reminder before it posts that tidbit saying, are you being kind here? Is this really what you want to post? But I think some would argue that it falls far, far short of what they maybe need to do.
Takahashi co-authored a petition with activist Andrea Cervone that led to the inclusion of anti-racism and implicit bias training for all community leads.
I'm very excited, and Nextdoor actually took our petition into consideration, and they made some changes to their lead system.
CNBC reached out to Nextdoor, but the company declined to comment. Some communities are trying to weigh the benefits with the costs of using Nextdoor. Some have taken full advantage of Nextdoor's resources.
Now through Nextdoor, especially when we have our Nextdoor award ceremonies and stuff, we bring people in from all across the city. A lot of the neighbors get to communicate and talk and find out that, we have a lot of issues that are in common.
Some community members, like the 4 that we spoke to, would rather not have Nextdoor in their neighborhoods at all.
50% of the community really enjoys it and uses it and exploits it. The good side of Nextdoor is that if there's a neighbor who has excess fruit, it's so easy to exchange. So I can see why 50% of people are going to object to Nextdoor being taken down. It's not going to happen. So I really would push for conversations to be disabled at the moment.
As Nextdoor works its way toward going public, investors and community members alike are asking Nextdoor to do more to clean up the racism on its platform so that the good parts can shine through.
really staying on Nextdoor and taking down those racist posts, as exhausting as it was, really made an impact in our community.
I think that is the billion-dollar question that is going to be asked on its way to an IPO. Is it net good or is it net bad? On one hand, yes, it helps local businesses amid the pandemic. It's sort of like a yellow pages at a community level. But on the other side, they still have a long way to go in terms of addressing racial profiling, citizen surveillance on the platform.